And does that mean you're apologetic for what you said, or does that mean you're apologetic for what you're losing? And that's the whole problem with the cancel crap. It's not effective in my opinion. If you want to cancel them, do it as a group. Do it as the people who are the audience, not from the position of, the platform canceling someone. All right, guys, we're back again with the PEM podcast, and it's just been another week. I've been back to work and trying to build this company. We're facing major policy restrictions, major censorship on promotions, trying to promote the business Psychedelist, and it's interesting to see the changes. The bar keeps moving, and so at one point we had more of a kind of a wide open reign. And it does appear that the scammers can keep doing what they want, but we can't do what we're doing. So it's a really interesting environment. We're not sure why that is. I'm not really pointing any fingers right now. It just seems like a broken system and a lot of censorship, and that might be appropriate to what we're going to talk about today. So yeah, just getting back to work. We're seeing the seasonal change right now. I'm looking at doing that would be nice if I had that. Starlink. We're probably going to do a psychedelic journey here out in the desert, maybe start some camping. Might be doing some sessions there, so we'll see how I'm feeling about taking larger doses of LSD or some mushrooms or maybe some mescaline. I got some raw mescaline from this guy John Queege Van Hoven. I don't know what his relationship is as far as the business is concerned, but it's Horrendous Laboratories. He might be the founder, I'm not sure, very serious chemist. So interesting things to do there. That's going to be, fall is the time for the desert, and the desert is an interesting place when you're out there taking psychedelics. So that's where I'm headed right now. I've been talking to a lot of people about ego, about egoic interactions, about what works to teach somebody something or to get people to increase their level of awareness, self-awareness, awareness to others, and what doesn't work, what creates resentment. Anything that creates resentment, in my opinion, especially a focused resentment towards an individual, or even sometimes a group, does not work to get the person to elevate their awareness. The focus then becomes the resentment and the justification for why their mindset is the way it is, instead of looking towards themselves and taking personal responsibility. And we don't seem to get that in our society. It seems like we keep looking at punishment. We keep looking at, teaching people harsh lessons, or, having that clap back moment as being the big way of doing things in our society. And everyone loves it and cheers and gets entertainment from it. But I think it's really ineffective. So I've been talking to people about effective ways to get people to try and self-reflect and possibly become more aware, more conscious, more considerate, right? Which is usually the issue that goes on with folks that get in arguments and get very angry about things. So anyway, that's it for now. If you get a chance, I'm going to start mentioning psychedelics more because we are receiving a lot of that restriction right now. So if you get a chance, go over to psychedelist.com. I'm going to be mentioning that just a lot more. We're going to get into these videos. Let's see what we got today.
I stopped caring about the way that people saw me because I pretty much gave up on being like a normal person. I gave up on being accepted by the public. I gave up on living a normal life or, having a family or anything like that. Based off of my experiences that I had. I was worried about, number one, my mom dying, number two, being homeless, and number three, at that point, I had always assumed that I would kill myself after high school. Like, that was my plan. But, Rat Village came out, and I just got distracted. I forgot. Ended up not doing that. And because of that, I never brushed my teeth in high school. Never really gave a fuck about it. Never cared. And this caused, guess what that causes? It causes your teeth to rot out. Right now, I only have 5 real teeth left in my whole mouth. And I think you start with like 32, which is kind of crazy to think. So, missing half your teeth and, living in a dump with a dead rat alarm clock. You don't know if your mom's going to be alive that day. You've got no money. You have to support her. She's never going to be able to support herself. And things are just basically slowly getting worse and worse and worse. And I started doing YouTube, and things started doing a little bit better. I started doing streaming. Things were doing better then. I guess it's nice, right? Having money is way better than not having money. But in terms of having a lot of wealth, I live in my same house. I use my same desk. I, for a very long time drove my same car. I eat in the same places. I do the same things. I really haven't changed at all, honestly. I think that maybe one day I might be happy again. I don't believe there's any light at the end of the tunnel. I definitely don't think so. I just try to make the best of being in the tunnel. And so that's why I live the way that I do. That's why I do the things that I do. That's why I say the things that I do.
I think that the perspective that he has seems to be more one of external circumstances affecting his internal mindset. Not completely, because he kind of alludes to the fact that wealth, doesn't change who he is, but that's also his fault. If he's really wealthy, whatever his net worth is, I don't know, apparently a millionaire, I don't know how many millions he has, he could eat wherever he wants, he could live wherever he wants, he could change those circumstances if he really decided to. So why doesn't he decide to, right? I actually know someone who's in a similar circumstance, a bit different, probably not quite as wealthy, but very, very well off, done well for himself. Similar mindset, very thrifty, very frugal, some might even say cheap, doesn't have the mindset that he has money, hasn't kind of reached that point. And I can relate to that a little bit. When I had the largest income, I wouldn't say I had the largest net asset worth, but when I had the largest income, I lived in a studio apartment with duffel bags of money and drugs, which was how I was living at the time. So part of that had to do with what I was doing. I didn't know how long it would last. So there's a lot of things that I think play into that mindset. I didn't know how long it would last. I didn't know if I was going to go to prison. I didn't know if I'd die. I didn't know what was going to happen. And it was really interesting how your mind can get tricked into different things. I never thought that, because at that time it was cannabis, I never really thought at that time, especially in the heyday of the middle of Prohibition, that it was going to go legal so quickly, and that the environment was going to change, and that it was going to become so difficult to make money with what had made me pretty much rich at the time. So that was interesting to see that change happen, and a bit jarring, and it certainly damaged a lot of people's lives. A lot of people had a very, very tough time with the loss of the old cannabis industry situation. But while I was in it, I was in a similar mindset as him, I would say. I did go out, I did spend money. I didn't just eat at the same places. I was able to do things. I went and traveled to Hawaii and places I wanted to go to, enjoyed vacations, stuff like that. I had, beautiful women around because I had the money to go do that. If it wasn't that, I was in strip clubs, whatever. So I did that, but I also didn't feel that I had the money to buy a house. I didn't feel like I had the money to buy, I didn't go out and buy a Porsche or, a Lamborghini or something. I didn't go out and do those things. And I actually could have, and I was still trying to build. And that was one of the mistakes I made financially was, I guess it was greed, I'm not sure. Maybe it was insecurity. Maybe greed is part of insecurity. Maybe those are linked in some way, I'm not sure. But I kept dumping money into trying to grow bigger, into a larger machine. I had a large network of grow warehouses across Southern California, and I had these delivery services and all this stuff going, and I wasn't making smart choices with business, and especially the team that I built, that I really didn't build, but just allowed it to come together however it did, were poor choices. So that didn't last for me. And so I can kind of relate to him, though, in the point that here I am living in something I didn't need to live in. Eventually, I did go buy a house. Eventually, I did start doing things. It took a long time to change that mindset. Now I see it very, very differently than I did back then. Him living from what I hear, his room's kind of dirty. He's not brushing his teeth. Whatever he was going through when he was, a teenager in those years, that could be very hard. I didn't have those kind of circumstances. I grew up around violence. I grew up around a lot of things, but I had parents that weren't going to die from a drug overdose or anything. I'm not sure what his mother might have died from. That's what it sounded like. I didn't have those instability issues. So everyone's different in what they're facing. It sounds like depression to me. It sounds like someone who's dealing with deep mental health challenges, deep mental health issues. And so clearly affects, how his personal hygiene, probably, his personal space, everything that he's engaging with. And that has to do with what his state of mental health is. And obviously his mental health is not great. He's saying maybe he can be happy one day. And he says he doesn't have optimism for the future, that things like there's light at the end of the tunnel. I think if you're waiting for the world to change, then no. I think if you change from within and what you do with yourself, then I think he's operating from a pessimistic attitude. The world, I don't think, is going to get better. Not in a time frame that we're going to necessarily see, or if we do, I think we're going to see it get much worse before we see a real improvement, because we're not, as a species, waking up. The main problems that all of us, I would say, are facing now aren't from the environment. It's not from nature. It's not from, some people are facing natural disasters and things like that. Obviously, Florida and different places that were hurricanes and issues, but they're the small majority. I think most people who are suffering and dealing with very difficult situations are dealing with man-made issues, societal issues. And is that going to change? I don't think so. I think that's going to be a very difficult thing to see an improvement. And of course, that's what we talk about on the channel, and I've talked about it before. I think our evolutionary kind of mindset, the evolution of our consciousness, is in a stuck pattern right now, has been for about 10,000 years, and that's what's holding us where we're at. So I think he's right. There's no light at the end of this tunnel. But he has the power to change his world in ways that I don't think he's actualizing, is what it sounds like. Sounds like this is a person who has power to do different things that he could do, but he's not doing it because he's still in a state of some sort of depression, sounds like to me. Anyway, yeah, well, I guess we'll see more about this guy, but that's what I see for now.
After years of living in absolute filth, Asmongold, the Cyrax, and Styx and Hexenhammer lookalike is finally cleaning up his house. Known for playing World of Warcraft and his dirty living conditions, like actual dirty, not just forgot to return the plate to the kitchen dirty, the Twitch streamer Asmongold took advantage of his recent ban to start the daunting task, sharing before and after photos. Asmongold revealed his progress, including a clean sink that for some reason is making the news. But I guess I am reporting on it, huh? Team, don't let your place get that bad. Please, you're better than that.
I'm not sure what fully leads to living conditions like that, but I can tell you I have experience with it. When I was a kid and just getting involved with drugs, especially psychedelics and marijuana, and wanting to live my lifestyle how I wanted to, ingesting those drugs, and the early days of experimentation, of course, that was not welcome in my household. We had, from high school, and actually I had met him prior, actually in junior high school, I had did I meet him in junior high? Did I meet him? Might have been early high school. Anyway, I had a friend from adolescent years when I started experimenting with drugs who had a very dirty house. And when I say dirty, I mean eventually the house was condemned by the health department. That's how bad it was. It may have been worse than this guy's house. I don't know. That looked pretty bad right there, but I'm not in the space. To give you some anecdotal ideas and just stories of how bad the house was. In one instance, my friend that I hung out there, he had twin brothers and one other brother. So he had three other brothers. At one point in his room, he lost a steak. I mean, like a ribeye, like a New York strip. Like, he lost a steak and lost it in his room. Could not find it. He could not locate where the steak was. And so, of course, the steak's rotting. And so at one point, what happened in the house was they just put the yellow caution tape up in front of his door and just closed the room. Didn't bother to clean it. Didn't bother to like take all the hoarding and nastiness out. Didn't even bother. Just close the door and let the rotting process happen naturally. Just to give you an idea how dirty this place was. And the place was infested with roaches. I mean, truly infested with roaches, where there were always roaches crawling on the walls, crawling on the ceilings, crawling on the floors. I don't want to say any names because these people are still alive and they are friends of mine even to this day, and so I don't interact with them as often, but I don't want to make them feel bad. But these people had a very filthy way of living, and the father of the household, he had a goatee, and they were like old hippies. He had a goatee, and it was often that he would have like a cockroach in his beard. Like he would have a cockroach in his, and he was like those. I liken this to those videos of, you know, when you see the starving kids in Africa and they got the flies on their face and they don't even try to shoo them away anymore. They're just fine with the flies because that's how bad things have got. That was how it was with him. The roaches would just be in his beard. He was a beer drinker. He liked to drink his beers. He would have a beer right there, and there'd be a roach right on the rim of the beer can, and he would just drink from it without, not even trying to shoo, just flick a roach away. I became interesting because for me, the pull to do psychedelics, the pull to do drugs, the pull to live the lifestyle I wanted, and because that was a safe haven for that, the parents of the household allowed that for the most part. There were like certain lines they drew about certain drugs that weren't okay, like heroin wasn't okay, meth was not okay. Acid was sort of frowned upon because it wasn't really like natural, and it definitely has a little higher risk profile, but we were doing a lot of acid. That was our main drug. And, you know, mushrooms were okay, marijuana was okay. So that was the reason we were over there. You know, we could drink beers if we wanted, you know, even though we were underage kids. So that was the environment. That's why we were there. So I became accustomed to living there, like to a certain degree. I didn't live there, but I would stay the night. I would sleep with the roaches. The roaches would crawl on me. I got to a point where I was okay with it. I don't know. Roaches don't bother me that bad. They're nasty. I don't want them in my house. I don't want them on my dinnerware. You know what I mean? I don't want bugs. They're nasty. But I was able to somehow be okay with it. I even ate at their house, which is that I'm not sure I could do anymore. I was a kid. They had plates to the ceiling in their kitchen that were uncleaned. I don't know if they just went and kept buying more dinnerware or how they had so many plates. I mean, they had a lot of people in their family, but they wouldn't clean it. So when a plate was finished, you'd take it in the kitchen. That plate was never further dealt with. Like, it just sat there. I don't know. I guess they would wash plates individually if they did want to have like a meal, and they would just leave the rest of the pile of the nastiness there. There was an actual basement in the house. That was the first place I ever did methamphetamine in my life, was in the basement, a rather appropriate introduction. The basement was really kind of a gnarly dungeon-esque sort of place under the house, which is strange because most houses in San Bernardino don't have basements. The house was sort of like an old Victorian style, like house from the South, like plantation style home. Very big home and just nasty. So I don't know, to me, and here's why I'm bringing all this up. I don't know, to me those people didn't seem depressed at all, to be honest with you. I don't know, maybe they were, it's hard to say, but I never got a deep feeling of depression. I mean, they both worked, both mother and father worked, the kids went to school and stuff. Everybody smoked weed in the house. I regularly shared joints with the mother and father. But I didn't get a deep sense of depression. Every once in a while, mom and dad would do mushrooms. And they didn't have any problem with their living situation. Now, for me, my external circumstances definitely affects my mindset. I've noticed that. And I'm so busy. I get irritated sometimes with how much clutter I have. I don't live anything like this guy or like the people I'm mentioning. But I get irritated even about the clutter, and I have so many uses for different things, but there may be a certain point like where you're like, am I holding on to this? Why am I holding on to this? So then you have to let things go. And it takes a concerted effort. You have to stop things. You have to stop and decide, okay, I'm going to clean this. I'm going to organize this. I'm going to make some changes here. And you have to do that. You have to set aside that time. And so that also is something that plays a role with me. But I very much prefer the Zen, very open spaces, simple, very clean. That seems to really help my mind. My mind seems to match that. If I'm in a really cluttered space, I think it's a challenge, and you could treat it as an exercise to control your mind in different and difficult circumstances. But I think it's much easier to have your mind be in a Zen space if your external environment is also in a Zen and clean and simple kind of setting. So I don't know if this gentleman's depressed. It sounds like it. That's what I got from the earlier video. I think his circumstance is probably very different from the family household that I was mentioning. But I have experienced real filth. I've experienced hoarding. I've experienced those things, and it probably happens for many different reasons. Yeah, I think it's. I don't think it's optimal. It's nasty, so I wouldn't want to live that way. Anyway.
Comments that I made were pretty much about religious extremism. I think it's bad, but I've categorized a lot of people in that way that was unfair. It's wrong for me to have done that. I said something that was bad. I should not have said that. I should have chosen my words more carefully. I didn't do that. I doubled down on it. I shouldn't have. I'm sorry. That's pretty much, I was a f***ing asshole. I was a piece of shit. I'm sorry. I'm going to take a step back from all of that. I'm going to step away from my leadership position and OTK and Starforge and everything. I want to, and they're fine with that. They respect that, and I want to do this. And I want to do this not only for them, but mainly for myself, so I can be a better version of myself for everyone. And I want to apologize to all you guys, my viewers, that I don't think I've lived up to that. I think that I can be a lot better than what I am right now. And I don't even think that I've been putting in half the effort that I should be. And I'm going to try to, clean up part of my house. I'm going to try to do this, and I'm not going to hire a cleaner. As I said, I was raised Roman Catholic. I view this as a penance. And I think I need to do this for myself. I need to take accountability for bad things that I've done and for letting my life get this out of control. And I don't need a get out of jail free card. So I need to do that for myself and for my own closure as well.
Okay. Sounds like a good apology. I don't know. It's interesting. I'd like to get the context of what I understand is that he was facing some cancellation, right? Loss of income, a lot of things. So he decided to show humility, which it's interesting, right? What works, what's effective with people. That's the question, is how do you get someone to sort of see, what mistakes they have made or what their real responsibility is, I haven't heard his statements at this point, so I don't know what he said, and I don't know how I feel about. I don't know how I feel about people and their assigning huge amounts of importance to people's statements. I think everyone should take responsibility for themselves. So if he said something that was, I don't know, extremist or racist or something, right? It's funny how much we attribute responsibility to people who say things, but then people who believe it, I guess we attribute responsibility to them too. But it's an interesting thing, right? Because we're seeing this in this political environment that we're in now as we head towards this election and all the things that are taking place, right? And whatever side people are on, on the political side, of things, and they point the finger at the other side. And for whatever the faults and flaws are of the candidates, I don't see it as they're the problem. I see it as the people are the problem. The voters are the problem. The people who support this and allow it to continue are the problem. I think, we give all this power away to others, to someone saying something. So it's good he's becoming aware, right? That's good. He might see some issues with what he said. I don't even know what he said yet. We'll see what he said. But the other thing that I see is it's great that this is working here for him in this case, and I think it's hard to tell. The apology seems fairly heartfelt and authentic there, but I think it's rather hard to tell if we've got millions of dollars at stake. I can do a good job of seeming very heartfelt as well if you're offering me millions of dollars. So I that's where it ggets tricky. Is it really effective? I don't know. The problem I think with the cancellation stuff, the cancel culture, the shutting people down, and I've said this before, is that with him, he's having this type of response. I think most people kind of do. They try to say they're sorry because they see what they're losing. But I don't know that it's changed their actual interviews. It's hard for me to say whether he's really changed or not. Whereas if we don't cancel them, we allow them to continue to have the ability to dialogue with people, and then maybe we see the evolution of things naturally, right? So the platform cancels them. What about people just, instead of canceling them, organically stop watching him? I think that'd be more powerful, actually, than canceling him from a platform. If people just said, you know what, I'm not interested in what he has to say anymore because I don't agree with him and I don't think he's bringing value to me, and so I'm not interested anymore. Or if you did have the ability to dialogue and point out flaws in logic and what problems there are maybe in whatever his statements were, and actually have that discussion, you can get people to change that way. That was my, and I always forget the guy's name, that was my point before. We've had this discussion many times. Well, that was my point before about the blues player that gets the KKK members to quit the KKK, right? And he's a black man, of course, is that he doesn't shut them down, doesn't shut them up. He allows them to speak. And that's the important thing, is they have to continue talking. You have to continue the dialogue. I just, I don't know. The apology sounded great, but there's a lot at stake, and I think it's easy to sound very apologetic when you stand to really lose something that was worth a whole lot to you. And does that mean you're apologetic for what you said, or does that mean you're apologetic for what you're losing? And that's the whole problem with the cancel crap. It's not effective in my opinion. If you want to cancel them, do it as a group. Do it as the people who are the audience, not from the position of, the platform canceling someone. I guess it's a little different. It's interesting, right? Because let's say we're talking about, what would you call it, network television. Network television is a different animal because you're checking ratings, right? You're seeing what your viewership is. So if your viewership drops drastically, then they cancel you. Your show gets canceled, right? But I think that's still kind of represents what I'm talking about, unless it's this morality call from the network themselves. And that's kind of what I feel like is happening with TikTok and with YouTube and with, these, and Meta and Instagram and all this stuff, is that the platform is making judgment calls for the rest of us, and I don't agree with that at all, and I think it's ineffective. So, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. The apologies seem good, but yeah, offer me $10 million and tell me to apologize for it, and I will. Yeah.
All right, so let's go here. So this comes from Keemstar. It says, I don't think Asmongold should lose anything. The issues people have with him have already been resolved. He apologized for his statements. That should be the end of it, but it's not. I keep seeing companies coming out with statements that they cut ties with him. If you're not a forgiven person or company, I swear, when you make a mistake, you will not be forgiven. Stop being fake. I'm so sick of everyone acting like they are perfect. Your time is coming. Every company gets canceled. Do you want to be forgiven? Hasim says he apologized for the backlash. He said what he said, and it's still fresh. It still makes sense that companies don't want to work with him. It's 2024. It was silly.
Sorry, because he got backlash. You're fucking dumb. You're actually fucking dumb. Because it's the most obvious thing that someone would come out with a hot take and then get a little backlash and then, be a normal human and try to listen to other points of views and then sit there and ponder, was I originally right or was I wrong? And then say, I guess I was wrong. My initial statements were kind of fucked up. Let me issue an apology. That is the most normal thing ever to do. That's the most sensible thing to do. That's what I count on all other humans to do, is to reflect on criticism and come to the right conclusion. And instead, your stupid little brain has resorted to that. He only apologized because he got the backlash. I'm sorry, you're dumb. He's
Oh, man. So I got a hot take on this too. My hot take is they shouldn't take anything from him either, because I'm a free speech absolutist. Look, I get it. People say all the time, oh, well, freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom of consequences. Look, bro, this is the United States of fucking America, all right? And my thing is, I'm not stupid. I understand that first they come for your speech, and then it becomes worse and worse after that. So, look, what he said is ridiculous. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and let me pull it up for you guys so you guys know kind of what we're responding to here. Give me 1 sec.
Killing of a group of people. They have genocide built into Sharia law.
You saw about the Palestinians.
Right now. So no, I'm not going to cry a fucking river when people who have genocide that's baked into their laws are getting genocided. I don't give a fuck. They're terrible people. It's not even a question. It's crazy that people don't see it that way. They'd be doing the same thing. And how much did they kill? As many as they can. They're not able to kill as many people as Israel because they don't have as many bombs and as many weapons. But if they did, they'd be doing the same thing.
That's actually not true, because Iran does have the capability to bomb Israel into an oblivion, and they don't. So does Hezbollah. So that's actually wrong. But
Stop
let's
it.
keep going.
Are these guys experts on the military capabilities of either side? And what he's saying about Iran right now, I don't know what Iran's capability is. I don't think anyone wants a war with them. They're a nuclear power. They have nuclear weapons. So I don't know what I don't understand when people get into that. I don't even know what Iran's full military capability is, first of all. I don't really know what Hezbollah's full military capability is. Hamas is some sort of subset of Hezbollah, I believe, or in some way has a relationship with Iran and Hezbollah. What are their intentions? What would they do? Would they kill as many as they possibly could? All these things. It's kind of interesting, right? People make these very strong statements, and they don't know what they're talking about. And I don't know either. That's how I know they don't know, because these guys aren't in the CIA. These guys aren't top military advisors expressing, their expertise on what's going on and who's running these things and what their intentions are based off intelligence. And that's the danger of this. I don't understand why everyone gets so worked up about this. These are people murdering each other. They're murdering each other. And, Hamas went in and did a horrific massacre and a surprise attack that was all over the place, including this sort of rave that was in the desert that many of us saw the video footage from that, and all these things where they went and just indiscriminately murdered these people. What is baked into Sharia law? I have no idea. I haven't read Sharia law. It's interesting we're bringing up Sharia law. I just watched a documentary on Sharia law courts and how women are treated and how Sharia law is done, and that based off of witness testimony, you can be given the death penalty. And that was just a small excerpt of what I saw. Like, you're talking about being an expert on a culture. As far as, I don't know enough about the Jewish faith and fanaticism on that side of it. I think also what we have to say, and what he's not saying here and lumping, I guess what everyone's upset about, and again, I don't know how much further this goes, but it seems what everyone's upset about is he's painting with too broad a brush. Is that what people are pissed off about? Because the truth is, from both sides, the Israeli side and the Palestinian side, or if you want to put it differently, the Arabic side and the Jewish state side, there are people who seem to be murderous. Very much so. I think we can see it on both sides, that there are murderous people there that are bent on killing the opposition, and sometimes indiscriminately, including civilians and women and children. So I don't know why we're getting that upset. He's painting with a broad brush, so he's painting with too broad of a brush, and he's got this following, so now people want to, hold him to this responsibility level. He's not an expert on any of that stuff. That's the other thing. So he's kind of saying things that he's not an expert on, and then people have this really powerful reaction to it. It's weird to me that we live in a time where people explode over this stuff. Guy doesn't know what he's talking about. That's what it comes down to. Sharia law, we know that there's something called jihad, right? We know there's something called holy war. I don't know what the justifications are, but I can also tell you that there's something called a goyim in the Jewish religion, and goyims are people that aren't believe in the Jewish faith, and that there may be some rather extremist writings around goyims. A friend of mine, and I'm not going to make the same mistake. I don't know how far that goes. I don't know that written within these scriptures or religious teachings that it allows for extremist action against goyims. So if I'm even saying that term properly. But I think there's a good chance that there exists probably mentalities within extremists and fanatics that we know it does exist, that they justify the killing of people that are different from themselves. And that may be embodied in some writings somewhere. Is it the original, religious writings? Is it part of the core teachings of their particular culture and religion? I don't know. See, I don't know, so I'm not going to speak on that. But I think it's a little absurd to get that upset about this guy saying that. He doesn't feel bad about people dying over there, I guess is what people are upset about, that he's kind of saying they deserve to die because they do, because they have this ideology. And then who are we talking about? Because some of them do have that ideology. That's the problem. Some of them actually, really, absolutely do. People that brought down the towers in 9/11, the people that, blew up the ship in Somalia, or was it? No, it wasn't Somalia. Was it Sudan? I forget where. Way before the towers were brought down. The people that have committed atrocious bombings all over the place, committed atrocious bombing in Bali many years ago, right in the center of Denpasar. People have committed, these type of acts, believe exactly what he's saying they believe. They do believe that. That's why they're doing what they do. Do all of them believe that? No, I don't believe so. And I think that's the case with religion in general. You have religious fanatics, and you have people who choose to believe a religion and leave out the fanatical side of it. I was just having a discussion with some friends about this, about how is it that if you were homosexual, you could be Christian, if in the Bible it seems to be anti-homosexual, right? And then there's these tales around Sodom and Gomorrah and all this stuff, which again, I am no, religious expert. I'm not a theologian. So this stuff gets very complex, and that's the only thing I bring to the table, saying, hey, you have to be careful how broad of a stroke you paint, but I don't think we should get so upset at some guy who's a gamer talking about geopolitical issues he has no understanding of. He's just spouting some, and you know what, heartless thing, maybe because he's got his own trauma. And I think that's in the end probably very true, that he's got his own issues, his own things, his own hurts and depressions, and so he states this. But it's ridiculous to get this upset about it. Some of those people over there definitely believe in murdering indiscriminatbut there's no doubt about it. So who are they? I don't know. Does Sharia law have something to do with that? I'm not sure. But I think you can equally find fanatics within any religion. There are fanatics out there all over the place. Some of them not even religious, just racially based in whatever weird ideologies they got. They're fanatics, and fanatics are usually have flawed logic and don't have a good grasp on what the true reality of circumstances are, and it leads to really bad actions. But I think getting so upset at this guy who's a gamer because he said some statements about geopolitical events is ridiculous. I just can't. It's just everyone's ego is just so insane to me. So anyway, that's what I see there. Go ahead, keep going.
That's it. Just takes enough. That's right. These people are not your allies. They are not the same as us. They come from an inferior culture that is horrible. It kills people for their identity, and it is directly antithetical to everything Western values stand for, and it is an inferior culture in all ways. It is that simple. No, I don't feel bad for them. I don't feel sorry for them. I don't care. I
Stop
don't
it one more
support
time.
them.
So very, very bold and strong statements here, probably what was really pissing people off. However, he used the term Sharia law. As I said, I don't know enough about Sharia law. I do know, have you seen what a Sharia law court looks like? And you see what the women look like when they're brought in? The women are brought in all black hijabs with zero skin showing. They look like captives, to be honest with you. When they're brought in, they look like they are... It has a very odd feel to it. It has almost like a cartel feel to it when they're going to kill people. Like the women are brought in and they're completely covered in this, and they're allowed to speak. They have certain rights. It's not like, but they're not allowed to go to school. They're not allowed to engage in education. They're not allowed to engage in any type of voting or any type of establishment of what the power structure is. There's so many. There are issues with that culture. I'm sorry, this guy, he's saying some very strong, bold things here, but there is a deep inequality within Sharia law, specifically Sharia law. We're not talking about Muslims. The Muslim religion is a much bigger thing than what Sharia law is, which is this very strict adherence to these cultural ideas. And I've brought this up before about Pakistan. I've brought it up many times. That Pakistan is governed by Sharia law, and as a direct result, has one of the highest levels of child predation on young boys for sexual gratification of anywhere in the world. And it's clear that it's a direct result of the Sharia law that's instituted there. So, I mean, you guys are getting pissed off, but the truth is Sharia law is a pretty nasty thing. I don't know if there's other forms of Sharia. In the documentary that I watched, one of the final statements that was made by the interviewees, and I don't know who the journalistic, it wasn't Vice, it was someone else who the journalistic body was. But were these men saying, hey, in Sharia law, we treat women a certain way, we have a certain structure within our society, and we don't care what anybody thinks. We don't care about condemnation from the rest of the world. We don't care what people think about how we do things. We don't care about how we enact our death penalty. That's our business, and everyone else we don't care. And I think many of us absolutely disagree with that. This is a place where women can be stoned to death, can be burned, where people can be accused of stealing, and if there's enough witnesses without evidence, horrific things can be done to them, where their prisons are sites of torture and whippings. And you're getting mad at this guy for condemning Sharia law. I haven't heard him say Muslims. I heard him use the word Sharia, and I do think there's a problem with Sharia law. I absolutely do. It's not something I agree with. I'm not an expert on it, so if someone can come forth and say, well, that's a specific type of Sharia law, and it's only enacted in Pakistan, it's only enacted in, the Taliban strongholds in Afghanistan, and so, that's not everyone that engages in Sharia law, I'm willing to listen to that. But because I'm not an expert, I have to allow for that. But from what I've seen, based off of what Sharia law is, inferior culture, that's one way of putting it. Maybe I would put it primitive. Maybe I would put it egoic, material-based ownership culture. I don't know how I would put it, but I don't agree with it at all. So I'm not that offended by what he's saying. I wouldn't get offended by anything he says anyway. I think it's ridiculous to get offended by what people say. But I don't know what you guys are getting upset and defending, because Sharia law is not a pretty thing, guys. I promise you that from what I understand Sharia law to be. So let's see what else he's got to say on that.
So, though I don't like his statements and I don't agree with his statements and I think that he's wrong on a lot of things, I will still fight for this man's ability to say it, and I don't think he should have been canceled. I don't think he should have lost his accounts. I think he should be able to say what the fuck he wants to say, and I don't think he should be penalized for it. Now, I know some of you say, oh, well, freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom of consequences. Because here's the thing. It starts with, oh, yeah, that doesn't mean freedom of consequences. Well, the problem with when you say no freedom of consequences is now you incentivize people to limit free speech. Does that make sense, guys? So you can't. I think people should be able to say what the fuck they want to say, man. Honestly, I genuinely believe that. Whether I like it or not, as you guys know, I dislike this. I actually refuted a bunch of his points in a tweet. But I'll be damned if he should have his ability to speak freely taken.
I'd like to see what he refuted, what points he refuted, and how accurate he was and what he understands about Sharia law. The more I'm getting into this, and again, I never heard him say Muslims in general are bad people and inferior culture. I heard him say Sharia law, and that's very important because Sharia law, there are plenty of Muslims out there who absolutely disagree with being governed by Sharia law. A majority of women especially who were affected deeply by that particular practice. So I'd like to see what his refuting points are and what he's addressing, because is he interpreting it properly? And I don't even know enough about Palestine. I bet you I don't know. Is Palestine run by Sharia law? Is that the case? Is it a place of complete rule under Sharia? And if so, yeah, I wouldn't want to go there myself. I'm good on it. Of course, I'm not female, so I think my problems would be far less. But there still are some concerns. Sharia law is a rather draconian and primitive premise. It's sort of this lynch mob justice, from what I've seen. There's a governing body and they make decisions based off of what the Sharia is, but it's pretty brutal. And again, it just doesn't always seem to be based on evidence. It's not like they're going out and collecting forensic evidence and doing, due diligence and then weighing out. It seems like it could be a popularity contest. You have more witnesses than another, and those witnesses are believed. But again, I don't even know how the structure works. I don't really know. It's not like I've sat and studied Sharia law. The one thing I noticed very blatantly is the way they treat their women, and it doesn't look good.
And this is someone who disagrees with him very strongly, but I will fight for his ability to fucking say what he wants. So no, don't fucking cancel him. Give him a platform. Let's do this through debate, right? And that's it. He shouldn't lose any of his sponsorship. He shouldn't lose any of his money. He shouldn't lose this Twitch. Nothing. Everything keep the same. Just debate. I think that's the best way to do it. Because the thing is that you don't win by canceling people. You don't win by silencing people. You don't, this kid, Beast Mode, says, okay, Marlon, but Islam is off limits. No, fuck you, Beast Mode. Islam is on limits. And this coming from a guy that's fucking Muslim. And if someone wants to criticize the Prophet, if someone wants to criticize the religion, if someone wants to criticize whatever, fine.
He didn't criticize
Islam.
Islam.
The United States of America.
He criticized Sharia law.
Is real, and I believe in it. Okay? So, here's the thing. People say bad shit about Islam all the time. But they should be able to say what they want. No, Beast Mode, this is ridiculous. See, you're a Beast Mode, and you're in the YouTube chat. See, that's the problem. Because guys like you want to curb free speech. People like you are the fucking problem.
Absolutely.
People like you are the fucking problem, bro. You can't just sit there and be like, oh, well, I'm for free speech until you offend me. No. That's not how this works, bro. That's not how this fucking works. Dude. You're either free speech or you're not. Just say you're not free speech. But don't come in my fucking chat and say, oh, yeah, I'm free speech until you talk about Islam. No, nigga. That's not how this goes. Dude says you're not Muslim, my friend. All right, bro, whatever the fuck you want to say. All right, man. Whatever. See, and that's why people make fun of, because guys like you are fucking soft crybabies. If you don't like it, then go back to the Middle East where they don't have free speech if you don't like it. But this is the United States of fucking America, asshole. All right? So get the fuck out of here. You sound like a bitch right now. All right? I'm able to divorce my feelings from other people's takes. The speech you don't like needs to be protected, asshole. And that's the difference between me and like you. I will fight for someone's ability to say things that offend me. That's the difference between me and you. I will literally fight for people that I dislike whether it's Anus and Reach, L3 Podcast, fucking Hassan, people that I disagree with on almost everything, I will fight for their ability to say what the fuck they want to say. Even though I disagree with almost all their points. Because I believe in free speech. I don't believe in echo chambers. All right? Free speech means free speech, whether you like it or not, you fucking... So look, if you don't like free speech, then leave, nigga. Go back, go to a fucking Sharia law country where they don't have free speech. Like, that's not how free speech works, bro. Dude says, so what you're saying is that people can say bad things about prophets? Yes. Yes, people can say bad things about prophets. Because this isn't a Muslim country, bro. This isn't a Muslim country. Respect the fucking law of the land, asshole. This isn't a Muslim country. If you want where they enforce laws on people that speak badly about the prophets, then go to a Middle Eastern country. Nothing's stopping you. Get on the fucking plane. You're probably an American or a British person. Get on a fucking plane and go there, nigga. Because here's the problem with you fucking guys. Let me go in on some of you fucking, like, you know, you fucking guys that want to come in here and try to impose your fucking will. Let me tell you something, asshole. I'm not going to go to Saudi Arabia or to the UAE, right? Or to Sudan or to Morocco or to any of these countries and tell them, hey, motherfuckers, y'all need to speak English. I'm going to say what I want to say about your government. I'm going to dress like a Westerner. I'm going to have my girl with her hair all out. I'm going to fucking push Western ideals in your society. They have absolutely every right to kick my ass, put me in jail, whatever the fuck they want to do. Why? Because it's their country, their laws. Okay? I'm a visitor. I'm an American in their fucking country, in their land. I obey their rules and their laws. And if I don't want to obey them, I don't fucking go there. All right? So I'm not going to go there and tell them, you niggas need to talk to me in English. I'm not going to go over there and say, I'm going to push Western ideals. I'm not going to go over there and say, well, you know what? You guys should accept Christianity. No. No. That's their country, their land, their religion. They do it how they the fucking want to do it. So you don't come here to America and then say, well, you can't criticize the prophet. Fuck you. And this coming from a guy that grew up in a Muslim household. Fuck you. This is America. They're going to say and do what they want to do. And if you don't like it, go back over there. Okay? You can't come to someone else's country and try to impose your way of life on them. All right? People want to get mad and complain and call me an asshole for saying this shit. Look, this country is founded upon by white Christian men. Facts. They put a constitution together. Facts. First Amendment. Facts. Freedom of speech means freedom of speech, asshole. Okay? If you don't like that, leave the United States. But don't try to impose your way of looking at the world and your viewpoints and your law system, etc., on others. You have the privilege of being here where they allow you to practice your religion, etc., but you can't impose it on others. All right? So if you don't like it, go to Saudi Arabia. Ain't nothing stopping you. But you're fucking here talking to me. All right?
It's almost there, right?
So yes, that means people can criticize the prophet, whether I like it or not. Don't get it twisted. I don't like when people talk shit about
good. I wanna hear
Muhammad,
the tweet.
peace be upon him, either. I don't like it. But I understand that I'm in the United States of fucking America. Freedom of speech is a thing. All right? I'm an American first, so go suck it. Get the fuck out of here.
So here's the tweet, I guess. He's ranting there. He's just, I don't, when you deliver a message and you call people assholes, I don't know that they take the message and actually absorb the message. So there's the tweet in which he I guess, refutes what Asmongold was saying. I don't know how true it is. I think he's wrong. I think he's dead wrong. Hamas targeted civilians. What is he saying there? He's saying that these groups didn't target civilians. And yet we've seen many soft target actions take place over the years, in bombings and suicide bombings and attacks on IEDs. So I don't get where his information is coming from there. He makes a statement about Sharia law in the tweet about Sharia. They seem to be, this is where I don't have the information. It's not like I've studied this. I don't know enough about the Muslim culture. But they seem to be making the Muslim religion, and I'm assuming the Quran and Sharia is the same thing. And I don't know that they are the same thing. From what my understanding is, they're not 100% the same thing. One is a cultural practice of governance, and the other is the spiritual teachings of the Quran. I don't know that they're the same. Again, without the proper knowledge on the culture, which I don't have, I'm not sitting here spending a ton of time digging into the culture of the Muslim people and the different, types and levels of the Muslim religion. I mean, for instance, when you look at Christianity, there's several different sects, right? And they follow different, in some cases, Bibles and different religious teachings. Within the Jewish community, there are a bunch of different sects as well, if I understand. There's Hasidic Jews, there's I can't even remember all the other names. There's a bunch of different types of Jewish people as well, and I don't know what it is they believe. There's, is there, and it probably is different, I would imagine different practicing Muslims that may believe slight differences on things. I don't know. And then how does that fit together with Sharia? But I don't agree with his statement about the military targets, because the whole thing that started this most recent military action between, in Gaza with the Palestinians and the Israelis started with Hamas attacking civilians. So I think that right away refutes his statement immediately, right? Unless I'm missing something here. And then I guess he's talking about full nation states like, Iran, like Morocco, like Syria, I guess. Well, Syria's a mess. But if you look at what happened, was it in Turkey where they, I believe it was one of the Saudi princes or the Saudi king or something murdered that journalist. You guys remember that? I forget the journalist's name. They brutally murdered him and chopped him into pieces. That's a civilian. So I don't, it's funny because I think he's trying to say that the other side, that the opposite side of what Asmongold is talking about is actually the morally compromised one, right? These people are engaging in murder on a level that you don't want to be anywhere near that. And when you look at the way force is done, when you look at war and you look at cartel warfare, religious warfare, nation-state warfare, it doesn't matter what it is. It's brutal, it's ugly. There are no moral superiorities. I think when you look at the last, Great War, World War II, there does seem to be a moral ground there when you look at Hitler and you look at what was going on. But was that really what it was about? I question that, because Stalin killed more people than Hitler did, and we did nothing to intervene. Not a single thing. I guess because Stalin didn't try to move into other countries as aggressively as Hitler did. Is that why? Is it because the murders, I think, were politically motivated and not, religiously or ethnically or culturally motivated? Again, I'm not an expert in the history of, Russia either and what Stalin did, but I know Stalin killed a lot of people and we did nothing to step in the way of that. There has been genocide after genocide. We have gotten involved, I would bet you, if you dig deep enough, for resources and monetary gain at every level. There is no moral high ground in murder for any reason. That's why there are and usually they're religious groups who are pacifists and refuse to engage in warfare and refuse to engage in killing, because I think that's the truth. When you get down to it, there's no moral high ground here. You guys want to say the Palestinians are the victims, the Israelis are the victims, everyone's, shooting back and forth. When you get into offensive tactical attacks on people and you start to murder them brutally and interrogate them and kidnap them and torture them, which is definitely what's happening in the Ukraine, it's happening in Israel and in the Gaza Strip area, it's happening in other hotspots around the world. There's no moral high ground, guys. That's ridiculous. I don't know why we're arguing about it. These people engage in atrocities, and the Sharia law people, I'm telling you right now, there's nothing good in that governance. And I don't think Sharia law is the same as being a Muslim. Sharia and the Muslim religion, I don't think are the same thing. And it seems like out of this debate here that seems to be what the take is, and I don't think that's true. I need someone else who's a true expert to really discuss that. And again, we just don't have the momentum or the resources right now to get those kind of people on. But it would be nice to have those discussions with true experts who understand this stuff, who could tell you what the difference is between actually being a Muslim and following Sharia law and governance of Sharia law, because I don't think they're the same thing. And I think there's a lot of fanaticism there, which changes the entire environment of religious belief, regardless of what religion it is. If you're a Jewish fanatic, a Muslim fanatic, a Christian fanatic, the results are almost never good. I don't think anything good comes from being a fanatic. And these people who engage in this very strict, crazy, restrictive laws around sexuality, around personal conduct that doesn't really affect others, around homosexuality, around those things, I can't support that. And I don't think that the Muslims are solely responsible or guilty of that, just the way I don't think Christians are the only ones guilty of that, or any others. You can also go into India and see horrible things done to women and people there as well. It happens all over the place, and it's not. There's no moral high ground on any of it. If you have to defend yourself, you defend yourself, but that's not what typically starts to happen. We see offensive attacks on people with collateral damage, and there's nothing good about it. So I think these are all moot points by people who don't really know what they're talking about in the end. That's honestly what I think. These are non-experts in either the history or the geopolitical situations. They are people who might have tidbits of information here and there, probably different information than what I have, but probably at a similar level where we're all basically not knowledgeable about the concept and we're trying to debate something we really don't know about. I just know enough to say Sharia, I don't see anything positive there. Sorry, can't get behind it. I've seen kind of what that looks like, and I know a little bit about it, enough to say, no, I disagree with that. Being Muslim, I think is a different thing. Don't have a problem with what you believe in. I have a problem when you believe it's okay to treat women a certain way or treat people a certain way or engage in very draconian, strict, restrictive laws on people, then including free speech. Yeah, I disagree with that. I think freedom of speech should be universal. So I do disagree with them and I can openly say that. I disagree with Sharia law. I disagree with you not being able to say, no, I disagree with the Quran, or I disagree with whatever it is, and not be punished and thrown in jail and whipped and possibly even murdered. I disagree with that. So, I don't know. These guys, I think, are having a battle where they are ill-equipped to really understand their arguments at all. I don't think any of them know. Anyway. All right, that's it, guys. I think we're just always seeing different aspects of the ego. That's what we're seeing here. We're seeing egoic interactions between the general public, between platforms, between people who think they know, between people who have a certain affiliation towards one side or the other of a religious group or political group or social group or whatever it is. And although I agree with this gentleman on this freedom of speech perspective, and I'm happy that he has that perspective, I think he's, in his tweet about, where Asmongold is wrong and things like that. I don't think he's right on that. I think there's flaws in his logic right up front in the beginning, where you see how the attack began with Hamas, who was absolutely murdering civilians. So I don't get where he comes from with his idea there of these Muslim nation states not hitting soft targets. I think he's wrong, but that's fine. The bottom line, I think the bigger picture of all this was about not canceling people, and I absolutely agree with that. By canceling people, we don't end up with the ability to further the discussion and start to have people who might be truly knowledgeable step in. We might have some people out there, they probably don't care. I have a feeling that people who are truly knowledgeable about the history and the real geopolitical structures that are happening within the Middle East and within these different religious ideologies that are truly, truly knowledgeable don't feel like engaging with gamers and people within these venues here that are making all of this money, which is so odd, and that the public is listening to these people like they're experts on these subjects, and that we should listen to their moral compass or their ethical compass or what they believe is right or wrong. I think that's interesting, because you do have people who are true experts out there, probably teaching at universities, probably doing deep study into cultural history, historical contexts that would have very real and hard points about what it is we're talking about, but they're not joining the conversation, right? And then the rest of us, the general public, is getting really upset and angry about someone saying, oh, I don't care that those people died because they would just kill somebody else. And then everyone's, oh, how could you say something like that? Let's cancel them. How could you say something bad about the Quran? Well, and that's the other thing. These people say the Quran is off limits. Yeah, in Sharia law territory, it absolutely is off limits. You say something against the Quran, I have a feeling it's sort of like a witch hunt to burn you and stone you to death. So, it's a wild world that we're so unstructured in our way of approaching topics, and we're unwilling to say what we know and don't know. Especially what we don't know. Hey, I think this is true, but I don't really know, right? Like, this guy's making a statement that these nation states never attack these soft targets. That's just absolute bullshit. Just completely wrong. So I don't know why he put that out there, but he seems to think he knows it, right? Which is fine. He's got his freedom of speech, and that's glad. I'm glad for that. Let's not shut him down, because 100% I agree with his freedom of speech take. I think that is the thing that's at stake, and it's really concerning that our corporate structures are having an impact on our freedom of speech at this point. That's very concerning. Agree with him 100%. But I think as you dig deeper into this, the other part of it is the rest of the public is so stupid in the way that they approach taking in information. They just take everything's just taken at emotional value and taken at face value and taken as fact based on whatever side of the thing you fall on and agree with, without really looking at it and going, hey, what do we really know? And the truth is, most of us know very little. That's the truth, including myself. I am not an expert in these things. I'm an expert in very, very small subset of information in this world. This world's an enormous place with an enormous amount of information. And there's so many, majority of us here are know-it-alls. The majority of us are know-it-alls. We know what's what. And that's unfortunate. I think if we're careful enough, we can say we do know a good amount, in that our intuition and our guts do tell us something. As long as they're not tainted by past trauma and all those things. But there is an intuitional side of all of this where I can tell you, hey, there's some people in these Middle Eastern countries that have ill intent. We know that. My intuition even tells me that. It would be places I would not go. There are people in these Latin American countries who are engaging in drug trades and other things. They have ill intent. Hey, they do. This isn't even about religion in the end. It's about territory. It's about control. It's about power. It's about wealth. You guys are everyone just gets so caught up in this crap, and they don't really look at things, right? There are things I do know and I don't know. I don't know enough about Sharia law, but I can tell you that what it's about power. It's about control, and it's about resources. It's not about actual religion. If it were, Why would we care that someone else believes something else or wants to do what they want with their body or sleep with whoever they want to sleep with or do what they want? It's not about that is why. It's about control. And, you know, I don't think we're going to, I don't know. It might be a while before we can have that debate with someone who's willing to really talk about what they know and don't know and really back up what they do know. You know, someone who would be qualified to speak on what's going on in the Middle East would be someone with a deep understanding, possible real interaction with those areas, spent time living there, spent time studying the Muslim religion, the difference with what Sharia law is and how it's conducted, would understand the different groups and different sects involved, right? You know, when Iraq was having its problems, you know, there was these different groups, you know, and there's different ones. There's like the Shiite Muslims, right? Who are they? What do they do? I don't know anything about them, right? There's Sharia law, there's Shiite Muslims, there's Kurds, there's Kurdish people. I don't know what Kurdish people believe in. There's so many things I don't know. And all of that story that's there is part of understanding what we're talking about here. And instead of getting really upset, maybe you could bring some real hard information about what really is going on. I think it's so complex and we have such short attention spans, we're not going to sit through that. So I don't think we're going to have a meaningful debate about the Middle East and about what's really going on. But I don't think, the point is, murders are murders for whatever reason. And, you know, unless you're truly killing in self-defense, that's one thing. But preemptive strikes in an offensive, tactical way they're very murky ethical territory, guys. I don't care what side you're on. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for today. We'll pick it up on the next one. Hey guys, thanks for watching. For long form, you can find us on YouTube and Rumble. For short highlight clips from the podcast, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok. Please visit psychedelis.com. You can find all sorts of assets and resources in the psychedelic business space, including retreat centers, clinics, ketamine clinics, individual integration coaches, guides, shamans, you name it. We've also got products, chocolate bars, gummies, spores, Blue Lotus flower, all kinds of things. Go on and check it out. There's even more than that on there. If you would like more content, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to ask a specific question or submit videos for me to react to directly, please email us at ThePemPod@gmail.com. All right, guys.